Welcome to the Enterprise Architecture Radio. My last episode, I ended with a question and an exercise. I gave you an exercise of working with Copilot or ChatGPT or Google or whatever generative AI tool that you're using, asking it questions and telling me about what thoughts it brings to your mind. And I did this because lately I've been thinking quite a lot about all of this. If you notice, technology has been speeding up quite a bit. And I've been reading about it quite a lot, and I've been thinking about it quite a lot. Recently, I came across a video about John Henry. It's a beautiful story, actually, where John Henry is an African-American man who is a steel driving man. I'll post the link to the video, and you can look at the video, and it's a fantastic video. A steel driving man means this is the time when railroads were being built all over the world. And if you think about it, at that point, railroads were the epitome of technology. They were going to revolutionize the world by changing transportation. And once the transportation becomes fast and easy, prices go down, supply chains changes, and everything changes basically. And railroads were being built all over the place. A steel driving man is the man who built railroads. A steel driving man was considered to be a top career choice, the technologist of that era. And there were these men who used to use hammers to break down mountains and to build pathways from where these railroads would be built. And there was John Henry, who was a very tall and strong man who used to use two hammers, and he was very good at breaking down mountains and making pathways to build railroads. But then came the steam drill. The steam drill was a steam engine driven drill that would basically cut through mountains, and that made the life of a steel driving man very difficult because it basically destroyed that career. And then John Henry goes into a race with the steam drill, and for many, many hours he cuts through mountains and goes faster than a steam drill and beats the steam drill. But when he comes out of the other side of the mountain, he falls down and dies. Now, another thing about this was that John Henry was married to a beautiful wife, and every evening they used to have dinner together. He would come back from a tough day, and then they would have dinner together. And the most beautiful thing about that video, and I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but both John Henry and his wife would go to a pond nearby and they would try to catch a fish. And whoever was able to catch a fish, the other person would cook dinner, and both of them would have a beautiful dinner together, talking about the day, talking about various things. And basically it shows about equality and about, so if the wife is able to catch a fish, John Henry, even though had a tough day through all day, would have to cook dinner, and both of them would sit and have dinner together. And that, when John Henry died, trying to save the steel driving man's career, that culture came to an end. Even though he might have saved a few jobs by winning the bet, where is the steel driving man today? That career has ended. And even the steam driven drill has ended, and a more modern technology has come to life. Now, this brings quite a few questions to our mind, doesn't it? John Henry gave up his life, and there are many other stories. There is also the story of Paul Bunyan, like a friend of mine told me, who competed against a saw. He was a lugger, and using an axe he would cut down trees, and he was really good at it, and then competed against a saw, and I don't know what happened in the end. It's a very old story, but the point is, you can't fight technology. You can't try to race with technology. I talked about, in my previous episode, AI, and I said I don't want to compete with AI. And it's not really possible for anyone to really compete with AI, and that's not the right way of thinking about it. AI is definitely going to come, and it's also going to take away some of the jobs that were menial and manual and non-technical or what have you, or technical but not from an AI perspective. But if we are willing to adapt and learn artificial intelligence and use it like a tool, then then more employment will be generated because things will become more efficient. So if John Henry would not have competed with the drill, instead if he would have learned to use the drill, he would not have had to die. Sure, there would have been less people required initially because the drill would be able to do a better job. But then eventually people would realize that they can drill more mountains, and then everybody would learn how to use the drill, and there'd be more work done. But the question is not about that. Today, artificial intelligence is going to come take some jobs, and then we are going to learn and use artificial intelligence, and then over a period of time, we'll be able to do more stuff. But how long does this continue? There are many other questions that come to mind as well. Artificial intelligence now does so many things. It processes so much information. And if you look at deep learning, it is a black box. We don't know how it processes the data. It just gives the result. And there's no way to really validate the process by which it is coming up with that data. And there's this question about regulation. How do we regulate where artificial intelligence is going, or whether or not we should regulate where artificial intelligence is going? There is a point of view that if we try to regulate artificial intelligence, it's going to slow down the progress. It's going to slow down the speed at which it's growing. Like, for example, the internet. When in the initial stages, if we would have tried to regulate what goes into the internet, we would not be where we are today. Today, we are using the internet to do so many different things, and it's a very, very productive system, right? But then if you think about it from a different perspective, the internet is also full of garbage, right? It's full of all kinds of things that should not exist. In fact, the internet that most of us know about is only the visible web, which is only 4% of the entire internet. The tip of the iceberg, so to speak. 96% of the internet is deep web and dark web. And there's all kind of stuff happening in the dark web, and I'm not even going to talk about it. Now, if we would have tried to regulate the internet, sure, we would have had a cleaner internet, but would we be here today? Now, if I ask you, for example, to go and clean the web, remove everything that is, forget about the deep web and the dark web, even the visible web, just the 4% that's visible to us, can we go and clean that web? Can we remove all the spam? Can we remove all the fake? Can we remove all the nonsense information that exists out there that's not required by anybody? That is misdirecting the people all over the place. Would we be able to do that? It's just too much information. And it's all over the place, and there's no regulation there. But if we would have regulated it right from the beginning, then it would have been easier. Like in programming, we have paired programming and we have code reviews, right? Code reviews are always a better way of building code because legacy code is always more difficult to clean up. The same way, if we regulate something while it is at the beginning of its stage, it's easier to keep it clean. It's easier to give it the right direction. Once it goes too far in the wrong direction, bringing it back to track is an extremely difficult job. So these are competing viewpoints. There are people who say that regulation is going to slow down technology. There are other people who say that technology is growing too fast and it's going in a place where we may not want it to go, so regulation is required. The truth is, there are no right answers to these questions at this point in time. Nobody knows what should really be done. We can debate about it, we can talk about it, and that's the whole point, right? We don't have the right answers, but it's very important that we ask the questions. And this is where the human sciences become very important, or also known as axiology. These are the fields like philosophy, aesthetics, psychology, logic, moral sciences, ethics, etc. Right? These tell us what to do, and these help us in understanding why we are doing what we are doing. The basic meaning of life. What is life? How do we define life? If artificial intelligence tomorrow becomes self-conscious, would you consider it a living being? Or does it have to be organic to become a living being? Let's say that, we start replacing body parts with synthetic body parts. So my heart becomes bad. I remove the heart, put it there. My liver fails, I remove the liver, put a synthetic liver there. My lungs stop functioning, I remove my lungs, put a synthetic lung there. And slowly, my brain, there are parts of the brain which can be replaced and so on and so forth. Would I still be human? It's like the simple philosophical concept of the ship of Theseus. If you've heard the concept, there's a ship, ship of Theseus, and let's say that you replace one wooden plank and then put another wooden plank there. It is still the ship of Theseus. Now you start replacing all the planks one by one, ultimately leading to replacing all the planks of the ship of Theseus. Would it still be ship of Theseus, or would it change into a new ship? At what point in time during the replacement of the planks does the ship of Theseus stop becoming the ship of Theseus, right? Similarly, if we change our body parts one by one, at what point do we stop becoming a human and become something else? At what point are we no longer alive? Or does the definition of life itself change? So there are so many different questions that come to mind, but with the advent of technology and with artificial intelligence becoming so real and so advanced as we grow, these are some of the questions that we need to explore. And then there are people like Roger Penrose, who's a Nobel Prize winning English physicist, who happens to believe that computers can never surpass human intelligence, and specifically computers can never become self-conscious, because he believes that consciousness is something that exists at the quantum level inside the human brain, and that can never be achieved by computers. And there's this beautiful book that is written called The Emperor's New Mind. It's an extremely dry book, I should warn you. But it's a beautiful book where he tries to explain this concept that can computers become can become self-conscious or not. So these are some of the thoughts that come to mind these days, and human sciences like ethics, philosophy, and moral science and aesthetics and so on become more and more important, because they inspire us to ask questions, to understand the very meaning of life. I know this is Enterprise Architecture Radio and I have no idea what I'm talking about today, but I hope you find it interesting. And I think everybody who's in technology specifically, everybody should think about these things at some point in time in their life, but specifically people who are involved in technology with the advent of this artificial intelligence and new technologies and the singularity coming and so on, technological singularity, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to know what you think about all of this. Once again, I would like to remind you that Enterprise Architecture Radio is not just a podcast. It is a passion project for me, but it is a collaboration platform for everyone. I want people to come together and talk to each other about these things, about technology, about organizations, about philosophy and ethics and moral sciences and aesthetics and other things that you want to talk about, and help each other out and guide each other, but most importantly, have a ton of fun.